Hi everyone, today in this video I would like to discuss Laura Mulvey's essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. So let's begin. So these are the things which I would like to discuss about essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. The themes, characters mentioned in the essay, symbols, allegory, motifs, metaphors. So here's a quote from Mulvey. In a world ordered by sexual imbalance, pleasure in looking has been split between active male and passive female. The determining male gaze projects his fantasy onto the female figure, which is styled accordingly. So let's move on to the essay. About the essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, written by Laura Mulvey in the year 1973, and it was published in the year 1975 in the highly acclaimed British film theory journal Screen, and was later published in multiple other collections and anthologies. She wrote this essay to analyze pleasure and beauty in order to annihilate it, and this is regarded as one of the most influential pieces of film criticism ever written and is the most celebrated work of Laura Mulvey. She argues that there needs to be new filming strategies that incorporate many feminist methods in order to end the male-centric Hollywood system that provides narrative pleasure to men alone. She utilizes psychoanalysis theory as a political weapon to show how the subconsciousness of patriarchal society shapes our experience of watching cinema. She describes the male look as active, he is the bearer of the look, whereas female look is passive, she is the one who should be looked at. Men desire, women are desired. Men objectify, women are objectified. She uses the concepts of Freud and Lacan as political weapons. The classical Hollywood cinema assumes that the viewer is masculine, matching up with the male protagonist, and always places a female into the position of desire. The work has been heavily cited in succeeding literature and spawned a large amount of critical response, both positive and negative. In the essay, she draws upon a robust knowledge of film, a deft understanding of Freud in psychoanalysis, and employs colorful descriptive language to create an effective and enjoyable piece. So let's discuss what does Mulvey mean by the term visual pleasure. She is concerned with the term visual pleasure both within and throughout narrative cinema, but for her, visual pleasure doesn't mean a mere entertainment or enjoyment. Rather, she understands the term on a deeper Freudian level, connoting fascination, titillation, and sexual gratification. Investigating the nature of cinema pleasure, she makes two conclusions. Number one, the spectator finds pleasure in viewing cinematic characters as objects. For this, she references the theory is scopophilia. Then she compares themselves to characters on screen. The viewer is a recipient of the pleasure. He is a spectator. He is not a passive bystander, but the one who directly adds and reacts to the screen in front of them. In the Freudian sense, the spectator's ego influences how they perceive the film, and in turn, the spectator's ego is influenced by what they see on the screen. This part of the essay is certainly the most theoretically dense, as she draws in theories by thinkers such as Jacques Lacan. However, it is central to understanding the essay in entirety. Narrative cinema. By this term, she means cinema with action, a plot, and developed characters. She applies the theory of visual pleasure into a large thesis here. She cites an example from Hollywood wherein the female characters essentially exist outside the plot, diegesis. In the process of masculinized visual pleasure, female characters come to be viewed as objects and therefore passive. It is therefore the role of male characters to further the plot, and often do so by acting upon the desires for female characters. This creates a problematic gender imbalance, and one that Mulvey seeks to ameliorate. It is here that Malvi's thesis is the most empowering and in sense radical. Towards the end of the essay, Malvi blames the sexist Hollywood cinema, which, according to her, only speaks castration and nothing else. She also chastises the film studies discipline for its lack of rigor in applying psychoanalysis to the thesis. Malvi's writing is not just a response to Hollywood but also to her fellow academics and contributors to Screen magazine. She is fearless in her attack and articulate in her demands. It is for this reason that visual pleasure and narrative cinema stands out among its contemporaries and continues to be studied over 4 decades after its publishing. Furthermore, in the time since its publishing, the scope of this essay has only expanded. The critical attention to sexism in the film industry has grown rapidly, and one can directly see Malvi's hand in this development. Now let's discuss the important themes of this essay. Number 1. Sexism of films. Malvi believes that the mainstream Hollywood cinema is an inherently sexist enterprise. Female characters are fetishized, objectified, positioned only in relation to male characters. Example, Marilyn Monroe. Certain aspects of her body were filmed solely to evoke eroticism and desire in the male viewer. Symbolic castration of female characters. Female characters are portrayed solely in the wake of this castration. They are guilty, anxious, and unable to receive pleasure. The second theme is film as a source of pleasure. Malvi views cinema as a source of pleasure. Her definition of pleasure is a deeper psychoanalytical experience with associations to desire and fantasy. This experience of pleasure is linked to scopophilia. What is scopophilia? It is a voyeuristic pleasure derived from viewing others as objects and the narcissistic relationship the viewer forms with characters on screen. This is a more complex understanding of film. The third theme, which is discussed in the essay, is the power of the director. The role of the director is an incredibly powerful one. The director plays male desire, voyeurism, fantasy, eroticization at the center of the work in different ways. For this, Malvi analyzes the directors Steinberg, Hitchcock, and the respective films. Directors decide what the spectator sees, how they see it, and further the trends and tropes that will emerge in cinema. The work is done behind the scenes yet accountable for the sexist practices and in the process change the course of cinema. Now, let's discuss about the important characters who are discussed in this essay, who are mentioned in this essay. Sigmund Freud. Theories of symbolic castration, eroticization, fetishization. Malvi formulates her approach with all these theories of Freud. Jacques Lacan, who theorized the importance of a child recognizing themselves in a mirror for the first time. Malvi relates this back to the cinematic experience. Marilyn Monroe, to demonstrate her theories of symbolic female castration and the objectification of women in film, Malvi uses the example of Monroe. Robert Mitchum, the archetypal male character whose desires and eroticism dictates the actions of the female character. Malvi then uses examples two directors to demonstrate the role of the director in the formulation of sexist cinema. One is Steinberg and the second one is Alfred Hitchcock. Steinberg is an Austrian-American director. In his films, the beauty of the woman as object and the screen space coalesce. Hitchcock is a British-American director He creates a screen space where the male protagonist does see precisely what the audience sees. Mulvey's theories of sexism in film are rampant in Hitchcock's films. Simples, allegory, and motifs. Some of the simple allegory and motifs used in this essay are the camera, symbolic castration, Marilyn Monroe, Hollywood cinema. Metaphors and similes used in this essay are the male gaze, rear window, castration, that is, woman's desire is subjected to her image as bearer of the bleeding wound. Everything is fine, don't be afraid. Psychoanalytic theory is thus appropriated here as a political weapon, demonstrating the way the unconscious of patriarchal society has structured film form. Hitchcock's Good Men and Bad Blondes from his film Vertigo, Rear Window, and Marnie. Thank you.